Hello, everyone. My name is Ravi Kumar. I'm the CEO of Cognizant. I have a guest today, one of the pioneers in the AI world, May Habib. May is one of the co-founders of Writer, which is a full stack, end-to-end AI platform where you could build, you could design, build, and deploy. And in fact, you call it build, activate, and deploy.
Yeah.
AI end-to-end use cases for enterprises. Thank you, May, for joining us today.
Thank
and
you,
thanks for
Ravi.
the partnership.
We are so proud to be partners with you.
So, May, tell us a little bit about how this is going to be a catalyst for enterprise embrace. Enterprises are flooded with software builder companies, system integrators coming to them and telling them that they're going to assist them on the journey of AI.
Yeah.
Tell us how the platform is uniquely a differentiator.
Yeah.
And we love the partnership, by the way.
Thank you so much. So do we. The big differentiator for Ryder is that we help companies scale this incredible technology. And when you think about the modern enterprise today, there is so much complexity. You think about things that take days that should take minutes, things that take months that should take days. And it is incredibly exciting to see what the technology can do. I mean, the demos are enormous, the demos are very powerful. But going from seeing something that should take weeks, take minutes, and then taking that into production and scaling it is where everything is really falling down. And the architecture that we've built around building, activating, supervising Agentic is what is allowing our customers to scale with the technology and why we're taking such a great combined solution to market. When you think about the modern enterprise, being able to combine the deterministic and non-deterministic aspects of what you want an Agentic system to do, that's the hard part, Ravi. And what you can get with the Writer platform is the ability to build in a range of autonomies and against a range of structure when it comes to workflows. And so if I am trying to triage an inbox for accounts payable and I'm putting Agentic against that, very different set of design decisions that I'm making than if I'm helping a sales rep prepare for an account meeting or follow up
Absolutely.
with a prospect after. And it's that artful dance of deterministic and non-deterministic, of structured and non-structured, the way that you are able to design a agentic system that allows for the recursive outcome following of an agent within the safe guardrails that the enterprise needs. This is the art of scaling into production.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. In fact, I've been a strong believer that the software development cycles needed system integrators like us to deal with the heterogeneity of an enterprise. I mean, software was built for repeatability. Enterprises are heterogeneous.
Yeah.
And it was very complex. I actually believe the agent development cycles are going to be much harder. It's you alluded to deterministic and probabilistic nature of software coming together. There's going to be human and digital capital, human and agentic capital, and in addition to that, you're also going to see the complexity of structured and unstructured data coming together for decision making. So my belief is the ADLC is going to be much more complex, and platforms like yours are going to be the orchestration layer on which you could build things. Tell us a little bit about how you believe the ADLC is going to be orchestrated on your platform. I mean, agent development lifecycles, what portions of that are orchestrated on your platform?
Yeah. We spent 30 years perfecting Agile, right, and the software development lifecycle. And we now have to really turn that same focus around methodology to Agentic. It is incredible that we were just talking about it before, you can go from idea to a live working piece of software.
You could do all of that on your platform.
No design, no PMs, right? No specs, no PRDs. It's magical. And yet there are a set of new requirements that come from being able to work that way. And the first one really is to align people to think about less from a requirements perspective and more from an outcomes perspective. Let's align on what the outcomes we expect of this agentic system to be, because then the behavior that you design has to reflect the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. You are building in public much more. You're building iteratively much more. It's great if a bunch of the MCPs that you've connected have sandbox environments. Vast majority of the systems we're integrating with don't have sandbox or developer environments, or don't have ones that reflect the reality of the production. And so how do you actually build and test and iterate on these agentic systems once they do get to live data? It's just a very different approach to building more deterministic software.
And can clients have an interplay between the proprietary LLM you have with their own LLMs and data they have versus synthetic data? Can they actually have an interplay between that?
Interoperability is key. And this is a world that's changing very fast. The customer does not want to be locked into anything. And so that is absolutely reflected in our architecture. So interoperability of agents, interoperability of models. But what people really do want to be able to do is develop and deploy in a secure environment where they know that permissions and role-based controls are built in already, where the security and configuration and control of how they give AI access to the tools, systems, and data is there already, and where a single user can get value immediately from day one. And that is what I think organizationally really needs to change. The innovation can come from anywhere, irrespective of the org chart. And now that we are hooking up multiple systems, multiple data sources to AI, right? The most innovative people in the company are going to become 100x employees. And we have to be able to give them this technology in a way that is very secure, but does allow them to experiment and play and actually release things that, do achieve the kinds of big outcomes folks want for AI.
Yeah. In fact, the way I'm seeing it with our clients is the surface area has gone up. We actually believe there's a multiplier of agents for the number of users. The diffusion is much higher than classical software. Also because you can penetrate into areas where classical software did not. And the ability to create more density of technology in enterprises is much, much more.
I so agree with that.
What are the bottlenecks? What are the constraints you're hearing from clients as they go through these journeys? What are those 1-2 things you believe are still complex things to navigate in an agentic journey?
Yeah. Before I go there, I want to make a note on the density of where we're going. When we in 5 years look back into what this era of homogeneous SaaS looked like, right? I think it's going to feel like when we look at pictures of architects, splayed over kind of big reams of paper, drawing out manual designs, the era of highly personalized software is here. And I think about customers where, I think of Writer less as a chatbot and much more as a cockpit, right? For the kind of work that you are doing, connected to your systems, connected to your data. And we can go into same company, same team, same user, same job, and the artifacts, the dashboards, the things they're creating with Writer, the mini apps are actually all different, right? Really reflecting of how they do their job, how they manage their book, how they manage their workflows. And that is going to just explode the amount of surface, right, that gets created.
Absolutely.
Now, what are the challenges? It's related to that opportunity. And the biggest challenges are around governance. We have built very complex enterprises where lots of people are enabled to say no and very few people are enabled to say yes.
You're surrounded with people who only say no to you.
Yes. And, for that innovator who sees a way to break through.
The art of the possibilities.
Yeah. Yes. They can go from, oh my gosh, I've designed something incredible, to being really bottlenecked, right? Or actually you build something incredible, folks get really scared, shut down data access to a bunch of systems. Yeah. And so really aligning our security and IT leadership around how they can enable the organization with this technology while securing the data, while guardrailing the behavior of the models, while having utmost observability with a lot of new UX patterns for the kind of agentic behavior, right, and access that AI now has. Those are the biggest bottlenecks, Ravi.
Got it. One of the other things we, as a company, researched on, and I'm a personal fan of that science, is context engineering. Early on, I wrote a HBR article about how to teach AI to work in your team. And we believe context engineering is the hustle of a system integrator. It is equivalent to customization in the software development cycles.
Yes.
So we are deeply embedding context engineering into the methodology. We have a methodology called BASIS, which is business-led autonomous systems integration services. So it is a 6D model. It kind of does the things you spoke about, which is behavioral design, outcomes, scaling for deployment, and then supervising versus maintaining. So I have two questions for you. One is, I know that you also do knowledge graphs. I kind of read in your stack, you have a knowledge graph. We believe that is going to be an important aspect, context engineering, weaving the tribal knowledge and pushing it into the LLM. And weaving the workflows and the data flows, and in some ways inculcating the culture into an agent, like we do for new human capital, which
totally
comes in.
Unique to every company, unique to every team.
So context engineering is an important science. We're very excited about it. And when I heard about knowledge graphs, which you do, which is kind of a small portion of that. So that, give us a little idea about how you believe that science is going to evolve. In fact, I believe we need a discipline called context engineer. Very similar to how customization of software was. The second is, when you're maintaining agents, you're really not maintaining, you're supervising. And you're creating, it's a self-reinforcing loop where they get better at it, but they can go rogue. Unlike software where you can switch off, this doesn't switch off. It keeps running, but it gives you wrong responses. So we're creating a methodology on that. Can we leverage the platform for supervision in production and context engineering as you build agents in contextual to an enterprise?
So these are both really interesting questions. On the context engineering side, a North Star of our product strategy is retrieval, being the number one in the industry at accuracy and precision. If you are an ops person and you're doing a sales trade optimization report and you're using Writer for it, and we're not exhaustive when we answer a question, how will you trust, right, what you've done for the entire session? And so exhaustiveness is a huge part of how we think about how we deal with tabular data, how we deal with unstructured data. And the ability for us to think about internal as well as external memory is going to be very important as agentic usage explodes and we run out of context window, frankly. And the ability for us to say, how do we bring to market a next generation of model that has internalized via a memory core, right, what is happening when the agent is behaving in the real world? And I'll give you a small example. With Writer, if my EA is using Writer and I went to an event and Writer is drafting emails for her so that I can send them out thanking everybody. And the model at the end of the session says, Carissa, would you like me to put this in your Gmail? Right? That's great behavior. She's going to be very happy that the model prompted her to do another action. In a highly regulated financial services industry, if I prompt the user, right, to send a text message to a client, I'm done. That person's done. Me as a company, I'm done, right? And so the ability for us to capture that nuance, and when someone like Carissa says, yes, but don't use this Gmail, use this Outlook, or In financial services, we have 3 ERPs. Don't use this ERP, go use that ERP. How can the model learn from that experience and generalize?
Would that be pre-training or inference time?
This is inference time, right? And so the next generation of models we're bringing to our platform allows us to get models to generalize from their experience. But that needs guardrailing too, right?
Yep.
I don't want a model that says, I can train myself from stuff on the internet, right? We are probably going to be in a world where you let a model learn and then you actually freeze, right? For certain types of tasks, certain types of use cases. So the context engineering world is not static. And I would say even, the way that we used our knowledge graph technology 2 years ago, very different than the way that we do retrieval today.
Wow.
And it's a hybrid, right, among a number of different approaches, especially now that you bring MCP into the picture.
Yep.
And so the most important thing for a customer to know is that they are working with an AI company that is constantly bringing the bleeding edge.
And the tribal knowledge can be captured.
Yes, exactly. And that what we're trying to do is make the system the most context-aware system, aware of the tools, the systems, the processes, the people, right? If I am a company that has put my org chart in a writer, I know when Ravi should actually be going to ask May for something, right? And really being able to have that context just explodes the power, right, that you can bring to somebody beyond it. This is why I called it a cockpit, not a chatbot.
Yep. And what about supervision? How do you
Yeah.
see that playing on the
It's constantly evolving. So for us, if you go into Writer today, everything from performance to evals to feedback to the systems access to the audit trails, it's all in one place.
So it's beyond deployment.
Yes, yeah. Once you're actually deployed, but we know that these usage patterns are going to explode up the data.
Yep.
How do you use AI to solve that AI problem of the proactive monitoring, the proactive inspection? How do we make it so that you don't have to wait for somebody to say up, down, or up, right, when they get a response that a model isn't necessarily behaving as expected? And how do you do it, how do you monitor separately when you're in development versus when you are in production? So these are all things that we are actively working on, shipping and deploying and learning in real time with customers. And as we think about agentic interoperability, those handoffs where our agent might be used in yet another third-party system, are also things that we're thinking about.
Terrific. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. And one last question I had. What is that one thing you're excited about, which is going to be a part of your next set of releases?
I'm very excited about self-evolving models, Ravi. I think, as we've seen with GPT-5 and others, the huge, impressive, big step function change in capabilities of the model is going to come from an architecture leap. And we believe that is models that can generalize from their experience as a human would, and getting transformers to think much more like people is going to be the source of that next big leap.
The two areas we are researching on, which is very interesting. One is semantic density and uncertainty guardrails, where you can flip from a rule-based system to a probabilistic system seamlessly. And we think that's going to be very important for real life use cases. The second is competitive agentic systems, where you have to compete with other agentic systems to get to an outcome.
Oh, interesting.
Which is almost a possibility now. I mean, the internet is getting built for agents, not just for human capital. You're going to see buyers and sellers on both sides trying to, it's being agentic on both sides.
Yeah.
So we do deep research on some of these areas, which we believe are going to be very, very important for businesses. Thank you so much. Thanks for the partnership.
Thank you, Ravi.
Great talking to you. I've always learned listening to you. So thank you again for the great platform you built.